And just so you know, I got a note from uh, Nate, his Zoom is broken. I had trouble too. That's weird.
It might be an update because we had somebody who had an issue earlier today too.
Oh, let me through. Um, also told I always use the browser. I don't even use the Zoom actual, I just use it through the browser. Oh, he's on now. Hey, Nate.
Hello.
I was having a little bit of trouble too. I had to go through, my Outlook decided to freeze up right before I joined, so I had to go through Teams, like, honestly. Uh, and if Sarah Graham might be in the waiting room too, but you can let her in whenever, it doesn't matter. All right, it's been a crazy morning, or I don't even know what time. Crazy day so far.
Is Elizabeth running the slides?
She is.
Oh,
So you should be able to see. Do you see it up? Is that okay with you, or did you prefer to run them or
oh,
something?
no, yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Because I was telling Michelle that so I've already hit record for it because everything disappears once I start sharing the slides. But yeah, just let me know whenever you need to change slides or when you want to let anybody in.
Okie doke. Um, I'm ready if are you ready, Nate? I know I'm starting off, so I'll probably turn my camera off when I get start presenting. Just make sure bandwidth is good.
Sure. Yeah, just let me know if you guys are ready, then I'll open up the waiting room and then it's already recording, so just
Okay, we're
cool.
ready. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our orientation today. I'm Michelle Cerruti, and I'm the Southern CJA Regional Administrator, and I will be the RA, the Regional Administrator for all of the returning residents programs. So let's do the next slide, please.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, who was that?
George Allen.
Hi, George.
Hey,
Hi, how
George.
are you?
Yep, we can hear you.
I can hear you now. Yep.
Hi, Nigel.
So welcome.
Thank you.
So just a little overview of what we're going to um, talk about today is we'll do a welcome here in a minute and introductions with our team. And then we will do an introduction just briefly to the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, the Returning Residents Program Manual 1, Chapter 1 today, Returning Residents Manual Chapter 3, which is Facilities and Security, our Manual Chapter 2, which is Program Culture, and our Manual Chapter 11, that's Finances, and Manual Chapter 10, which is Data Management. So that will be everything we'll review today in our first orientation. Next slide, please. And just a little introduction. Again, I'm Michelle Cerruti. I'm just going to let our team introduce ourselves, and we do not have a huge list of people today. So I'd also we you can all come off camera. I mean, come on camera and introduce yourself as well. But I'm going to start with my colleague Nate Keener.
Hello, I'm Nate Keener. I'm the CEGA Central Regional Administrator. So I generally oversee the grant program, the workforce grant programs in Peoria, Danville, Decatur, and Champaign.
Thanks, Nate. And our division manager is Diana Fuller, and she couldn't be here today. And Larry Dawson is our Northern Regional Administrator. He also could not be here today. I do see Connor Bertrand on. Connor, would you like to hop on and introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. So, like Michelle said, I'm Connor Bertrand. I'm the CEGA grant manager for the Northern region, and then I'm helping Michelle and Nate out with the returning resident grant as well. So, you've probably been getting emails from Maureen and might have seen me CC'd on there, and then in the future, you'll probably be working with me for the most part. So, looking forward to working with you.
Thanks, Connor. And Connor, let's go ahead and introduce our grantees, if that's okay. How about we start with Safer Foundation?
I, I'll go first. I'm Ike Carruthers, and I need opportunity regarding the returning citizen grant.
And I'm Sarah Molesky Rice. I'm the AVP of Development and Communications with Ike, also from Safer Foundation.
Awesome. Is anyone else on the call from Safer?
Not that I see when I'm looking through the list of attendees.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I believe then we also have Imani Works on the call. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, glad to. And we've got, I think our whole team is here today. So if it's okay, in the interest of time, I'll introduce our team. So my name is Naya Vanterpool. I am a grant writer with Amani Works. I am joined today, I believe, by phone, our president, Patricia Eggleston Esquire. We are joined today by Jerry Johnson, who is a program associate administrator with Amani Works. We are also joined today by one of our partners in delivering the solar PV training, Millennium Solar Energy Training Academy. We have with us Chris Williams, who is the CEO of MCEDA, and one of our solar instructors, Mr. George Allen. We are also joined by our post-release employment service and placement providers, Got Jobs America, their co-founders, co-heads, Michael Sadiq Cannon and Ricky Hamilton. I believe with Millennium Solar, we may also have their program director, Debbie Bartholomew. And I think, is that Asia, Chris? Is that Asia on the line as well? Administrator, who is a executive assistant. And then we also have our legal services provider with TRED, Reverend Elena Calloway. And then with Amani Works through Trinity United Church of Christ's Prison Ministry and Correspondence Ministry, we are also joined by Pamela Felder Small. We also have one of our newest team members, Karen Youngblood, on the line with us, who is getting her feet on the ground today. I believe that's everyone.
Thank you. I believe I see our grant
I'm
manager.
here, Naya. Excuse me,
Oh,
Gail
no,
Hardy.
you're
Thank you,
fine.
Gail. Gail, thank you. Gail Hardy, also with Trinity United Church of Christ Prison and Correspondence. Gail Hardy.
Well, welcome. I also think I saw our grant manager, Sarah Graham, just joined us too. And so Sarah will be the grant manager for Imani Works, and Connor is the grant manager for Safer Foundation. Sarah, do you want to pop on and introduce yourself?
I sure can. Does everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Graham. I'm the grant manager with Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and work on a number of various grant programs here and am excited to be a part of the Returning Residents program.
Thanks, Sarah. Sorry about that. Dwayne Owen, Dwayne Owens, I would love for you to introduce yourself as well.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I was answering an email there real quick.
Oh,
Dwayne Owens, Department of Corrections. I am the vocational coordinator for the department. I've been with education and IDOC for 24 years now. Never been a correctional officer. If anybody wants to ask, no, it's always been education, either a teacher or administrator throughout the system. So nice to meet everyone.
thank you, Dwayne. And Natasha, would you like to pop on? You're all going to get to know Natasha very well. She can explain who she is and what she'll be doing.
Hi, my name is Natasha Telger, and I am with Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. And we work on the Illinois WorkNet platform, which is where the CJA reporting system is built upon that platform. So me, Natasha Telger, but then also David Garvey, who can't be with us in this meeting today, will be providing technical assistance on the reporting system.
Thanks, Natasha. Gia, would you like to introduce yourself and tell them what you do?
Sure. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Gia Suggs, and I support the development of all of the written operations materials and some of the training materials. So glad to be here with you and welcome aboard.
Thank you, Gia. Did I miss anyone? Okay, great. Uh, so we can go to the next slide, please. Okay. Just, I think you all know the Zoom basics. Please keep muted unless you would like to ask a question. Then just raise your hand and you can come off mute. You can also type in the chat, whichever you feel more comfortable with. We won't be doing breakout rooms today, so we won't need to use that feature. And we can go to the next slide. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Sorry. So we'd love to hear from you since we do have a little bit of a small group. We'd love to hear what you hope to get out of this workshop today. So if you'd like, just post your responses in the chat or you can come off mute, whichever you feel more comfortable with.
I know on our team, we're eager to learn more about the implementation timeline, expectations around, program implementation, any restriction requirements we need to plan around, so that we can make sure we're getting going and getting started efficiently and effectively.
Great, thank you. And I really don't have anything else in the chat right now, and that's quite okay. So as you all may or may not know, so we'll be doing several different orientation sessions, covering all of the chapters in our manual. So hopefully by the time that we get done providing you these orientations, you'll have all your questions answered. But we will have some time to take questions as we go throughout the presentation as well. So next slide, please. And this is the first opportunity. So I'm sure you don't have any questions just yet, but if anyone does, you're always welcome to raise your hand or type in the chat. So again, we're going to go over a brief overview of what the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, known as CJA, is about. Next slide, please. Okay, so I just want to review DCO's Office of Employment and Training and the CJA workforce training programs. The CEJA workforce programs live in a new division within DCEO. The workforce programs within CEJA, within the CEJA division, are the Clean Jobs Workforce Network Program, or what we refer to as the CEJA Workforce Hubs. And this program creates 14 regional hubs to deliver clean job training programs to participants using a standard clean jobs curriculum framework, uh, very similar to the curriculum framework used in the returning residents, which prepares individuals for various entry-level clean energy jobs. We also have the Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program. This is a statewide program offered in 3 regions to create qualified, diverse pipeline of workers prepared for careers in construction and building trades and other clean energy job opportunities. And the ultimate goal of the Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program is to prepare individuals to enter and succeed in a DOL registered apprenticeship program. Then we have our Energy Navigator program, which focuses on really the outreach and recruitment to equity investment eligible communities and individuals to increase the participation in the CEJA workforce programs, includes the Climate Works pre-apprenticeship and the CEJA workforce hubs. And the navigators will provide support for participants enrolling in these programs. So basically, they're doing all the outreach, then they're handing over and the intake and the initial application, and they hand it over to the hubs for enrollment. So I also wanted to mention the Future Energy Jobs Act, or FEJA, which was a precursor to CEJA. FEJA established several clean energy workforce training programs, which are still running. The CEJA legislation moved the administration of these programs from ComEd to Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. And these programs are also administered through DCEO's CEJA division. And last but not least, and why we're here today, we'll be focusing on the Returning Residents Program. And this will also deliver the Clean Jobs training using a standard Clean Jobs curriculum framework to people in the custody of the Department of Corrections. And the goal is to prepare people for clean energy entry-level individuals upon release. Next slide, please. So next, I would like to review our program manual, which lives in your partner guide. The partner guide is the home for all CEJA policies and procedures, the manuals, which are an extension of our policy guidance. All of our TA sessions are recorded and housed in your partner guide. We really value your feedback on this, and we frequently make updates here. So whenever it's needed. So in the course of your execution of the grant, you'll find that there are scenarios or challenges. If you find there's scenarios or challenges that aren't addressed in the manual or our policies or any of our TA sessions, we really encourage you to work with us to help us find solutions. So during today's session, you'll receive instructions on implementation for grantees based on the guidance provided in the Returning Residents Program. We'll be covering select topics from chapters 1, 2, 3, and 11, and not necessarily in that order. We hope that you are able to review the manual chapters before our orientation when at all possible. So that way you'll be able to come prepared to be engaged and ask questions. But if you weren't able to read the manual prior to the session, the chapters can be accessed from your partner guide in the Illinois WorkNet link. The links to the partner guide I can throw in the chat. See if I can get that in there for you.
I can do that for you, Michelle.
Oh, I just posted it. So, but thank you. Thank you, Natasha. If it's not the right link, then it should be. And if anyone has trouble accessing, just let us know. We can walk you through it real quick. We'll cover key points during these orientation sessions. However, it is your responsibility to read the program manual and understand the program. And because these programs are new, policies and materials are continuously being developed and edited, and DCO reserves the right to modify or update materials, manuals, and policies at any time, but we'll always let you know when when any changes are made. Today's session will be recorded and it will be made available for your review in the CEJA Program Partner Guide. It might take about 3 to 5 business days for the recording to be posted, but it's usually a little quicker than that. Next slide, please.
I had a quick question.
Sure.
Thank you. In the program description and the program administrator rules, it describes needing to work with DCO and IDOC to develop a guidebook and program guide. Is that referring to the content on this list of resources, or is that something separate?
Well, if I'm, um, I believe that's the for employers, but I'd have to go back and look at exactly what resource. Where are you seeing that at?
Yeah, let me pull it up here. Exhibit 24. Because it sounded like it may have been both, might have been both, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think there is.
Assist grantor in creating and publishing a guidebook for implementing the curriculum framework in correctional facilities, including resources for program graduates, and assist grantor in creating, publishing, and updating as required by grantor and employer hiring returning residents handbook. So it sounds like it
Yes.
would be both.
Yes. So we will be providing more information on all of that, more guidance on all of that when we figure out how we're going to go about doing all that. So there, you will have some guidance around that.
Thank you.
Okay. So as I mentioned, I want to be sure that you have your point of contacts. The grant manager, your primary point of contact will be your assigned grant manager. Um, Your grant manager will be responsible for communicating with you about the everyday management and implementation of your grant. And if you have any questions about the grant, contact them first. But you'll also be interacting with me, your CEJA regional administrator. And I work really closely with Sarah and Connor, so you're welcome to just copy us both. That way you don't have to know who to email for when you have questions. And then I'm sure you'll get used to who you should be really talking to about each topic. Okay, next slide, please. Alrighty. So let's get started in reviewing chapter 1. Next slide, please. Okay. And we can go on to the next slide. A few too many slides in here, I think. Okay, thank you. So just a chapter 1 overview of the program manual. We're going to be reviewing the Climate and Equitable Job Act workforce development programs that will help grow the clean energy workforce, returning residents, training programs that align with the Illinois workforce priorities, the need to grow Illinois' clean energy industry, the key components of the returning residents clean jobs training program, the staffing roles required for successful program implementation, and the fundamental program definitions. Next slide, please. So the goals of the Returning Residents program are to increase access to and opportunities for training in the clean energy industry for returning residents, to prepare people for entry-level, good-paying clean energy jobs, help returning residents succeed in the labor market and in the clean energy sector specifically, and support returning residents in retaining employment and growing their careers. Next slide, please. So there are four correctional facilities that will be delivering returning residents programs. The two that we're focusing on today is the Kewanee Life Skills Center and Western Illinois Correctional Centers. And again, Connor is the grant manager for Safer Foundation, and Sarah will be the grant manager for Imani Works. Next question, next slide, please. Question. Program focus and objectives. The main objective of the CEDAR Returning Residents Clean Jobs Training Program is to, as I mentioned, to increase access to opportunities for education, training, and supportive services to help returning residents succeed in the labor market. Utilizing the Clean Jobs Framework for returning residents, the program will train eligible individuals in the custody of Illinois Department of Corrections who are scheduled to be released within 36 months from the start of the training program. Next slide, please. This slide represents the participant life cycle. The CEDAR workforce programs are intended to support participants throughout the participant life cycle. The program manual walks you through each phase of the participant life cycle, and keep in mind that this life cycle represents the typical participant and does not reflect atypical scenarios that were originally listed in the Returning Residents NOFO and are detailed in Chapter 8 of the Returning Residents Manual. And these different scenarios include participants that may be released sooner than expected and need additional training support after release. Because people are eligible to participate 36 months before their out date, participants may complete training a long time ahead of their release. Participants may be released to communities far from the correctional facilities and the returning residents program grantees service delivery area. And participants may not know where they will be released until shortly before their out date. So we've tried to develop some scenarios that touch on these topics, and they will be covered in detail in our orientation session 3. Next slide, please. So, safety and security. We're going to touch on safety and security, which is detailed in Chapter 3. Next slide, please. So, Illinois Department of Corrections will provide cycle training and staff orientation for anyone who will be on site for the correctional facility. Everyone in the facility has to have a background check. A complete background check may consist of, but not limited to, checking driver's license and FOID cards, criminal history checks, offender and visitor tracking system, juvenile tracking system, written and telephone inquiries for dispositions, police reports, military backgrounds, employment reference checks, tattoo photos. I know you've all received your background paperwork, and I know that pretty sure you're all in process of getting that completed if you haven't already. It includes drug screening. Once the background check is complete, the grantee staff can progress to the drug screening, and employee services are accountable for drug screening. All grantee staff accessing the facility will be subject to the drug screening process. It is important to note that the drug screening process can take up to 3 months to complete. Pre-service orientation training. Once grantee staff have passed their background checks and drug screenings, they are required to attend the first available new employee expectations pre-service orientation training, also known as PSOT. And when accessing the facility, there are protocols that grantees must follow. They must follow the Illinois Department of Corrections guidelines for accessing the facilities, which there's a standing schedule. Grantee staff with an office in the correctional facility or who will be working in the correctional facility on a consistent and regular basis, such as instructors and recruitment staff, must create and maintain a standing schedule. A standing schedule represents a predetermined framework that outlines consistent start and end times for work and breaks and other designated activities. And this level of predictability distinguishes a fixed shift from a flexible schedule, providing grantee staff and facility personnel with a reliable routine. The schedule for each grantee staff must be submitted to and approved by the Education Facility Administrator, EFA. The overall standing schedule must align with the facility's on-site security team. And just a review of a gate pass, grantee staff and program personnel that do not have an office in the correctional facility and do not work in the correctional facility on a consistent and regular basis, like maybe some guest speakers, mentors, they must receive a gate pass to access the facility. And a gate pass is a document or electronic device which is temporarily used to permit entry onto the property or specific sections of the facility. Grantee staff and program personnel can gain access to the facility by obtaining a gate pass into a specific facility for a specific purpose and on a specific day. Grantees must request the gate pass in advance of the visit. The facility will run a name check and confirm the individual's facility level clearance. And once the individual has passed the name check, a 1-day gate pass will be used, and the individual will be escorted into and throughout the facility. So just to note, purses or totes or similar work bags are not permitted in the facility. Clear bags are allowed to hold car keys and a lunch. Grantees should be prepared to have their belongings searched as well as their personhood checked, searched, and patted down. So, in regards to a dress code, the Illinois Department of Corrections dress code requires clothing to be in good taste and that grantee staff dress appropriately for the environment. And the dress code can be found on page 10 in chapter 3 of the Returning Residents Program Manual. And then there is the reporting concerns and incidents. Safety, health, and security are Illinois Department of Corrections' highest priority. Safety and security procedures are implemented to help ensure a safe working environment for staff, guests, and residents. So even with these precautions, incidents may occur. If there is a concern or an incident that occurs, grantee staff must comply with the steps for reporting concerns and incidents. And these steps and the process can be found on page 11 in chapter 3 of your manual. I'm just checking to see if there's any questions. Oh, next slide, please. And that's our spot for questions. And which is okay. So please note that Dwayne Owens with Illinois Department of Corrections did post a comment in the chat. You can send any questions to Dwayne, and he did put his email address in the chat. And once you have someone actually on site, you will still be able to reach out to Dwayne, but you won't have to go through him for all communication. Any questions before we move on? Okay. Great. Let's see. Turn. Okay. So technology and equipment. With the goal of maintaining facility and security, there are specific equipment management criteria and limitations when working inside a correctional facility with respect to hardware and software, and grantees are not allowed to transport certain items and equipment in or out of the facility. This includes, but it's not limited to, smartphones and cell phones, iPads and tablets, computers and laptops, hotspots, printers, televisions, thumb drives, or other storage devices, audio or visual technology such as cameras or microphones or headsets, projectors. While grantees are not allowed to bring a computer or computing device on site, grantees may be allowed to acquire the technology necessary to deliver the returning residents Clean Jobs training program through the Department of Innovations and Technology, which we call DO-IT. However, please note that there may be a very long lead time to obtaining any equipment, and you may need to make alternative arrangements without technology for your program. Only technology purchased through DO-IT is permitted in the facility. All items must be inventoried in and out of a locked storage each day. If additional storage is required, it is the responsibility of the grantee to use grant funds to purchase additional storage. Keep in mind, internet access is not available, and external sources for internet access, like hotspots, are not permitted. Depending on the facility and the assessed security risk, grantees may request limited internet access. For more information regarding this process, grantees should inquire with their facility's Education Facility Administrator, or EFA. More information regarding technology and equipment acquisition is available in Chapter 3 under the Facilities and Security chapter. Next slide, please. Any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. This is Chris Williams from Millennium. You said no smartphones will be allowed, so that's the duration of the training. We'll be without our phone.
That is my understanding. Dwayne, can you confirm that?
Anytime you're in the facility, there's no phone allowed. Yes. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
And Chris, do you want to ask about laptops on site as well for, you know,
Well, I think they made it clear there's no computers going in unless they're purchased through that organization. Do-IT.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah, it's an department of the state.
Right. And it's a long lead time. So, I'm prepared to do paper tests. If that just makes things easier. I don't want to rely on laptops and then we can't get to them, then we're back to square one. So we'll have to think through that process.
and if we did want to pursue, I would defer to Chris on, whether or not pursuing paper tests or laptops, but that was something that we went back and forth on a decent bit in the earlier establishment steps. If we did decide that we wanted to procure laptops, would that be done at the expense of IDOC as their property and asset, or would that be done as, a cost to our program budget? It was something that got struck as a part of our budget because of the limitations on
Mhm.
laptops.
It is at expense of whoever's using the computer. So our current uh, contracted vendors, have to purchase with their funds, even though I wish somebody from Do It was on here with me because but they
Mhm.
don't represent me and I don't represent them.
Yeah.
And we have our own frustrations with the Department of Corrections of how things work. So welcome to that, everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remain positive, but we're in a lot of transition and we have brought a lot of things to do it at once. And, four-year colleges coming in, all of our programs going to higher technology, smart boards, all these things. And they're personally having trouble keeping up with us. And we've been behind for years. So, people will come work for us that have worked in a school system or something. And we're like, oh, wow, you guys don't have, we're still using chalkboards in facilities. So, not even smart boards or not even whiteboards. So, not all of them. I'm not trying to, the Decatur's pretty good. Kiwani's good. The four that you guys are in, were picked for a reason. We're not using stone tablets in those, but there are some difficulties, guys. So bear with us and we'll bear
So,
with you.
so I do need to bring some chalk or no?
Nobody will throw you out if you got chalk in your pocket, that's for sure.
And now, if you ever get to the point where you do apply for equipment or a computer, and that's why we really discouraged that because we know it could take a very long time, and we don't want to hold up the start of that. But you can just talk with me and the grant manager about if you get approval, uh, we can discuss if we can modify your budget. If for some reason you got approval, that can be discussed.
Awesome. It's great to know that that's an option. So, come cohort 2 or 3, if that's, something that's possible that, our team can plan around it. So thank you for letting me know that, Michelle.
Sure. But we just have no idea how long it would take to get that approval, so that's why year one especially, we don't know. I had a comment about,
Gosh, wow, it could take over a year is what I hear you imply there for approval. Understood.
yeah.
It's a very long process.
It's not just we gotta get the governor's office approval. I mean, there's a whole process before we can even order anything through Do It. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
and I understand the process and reasoning for it, but it doesn't make it less frustrating.
Yeah.
I do see a note on here that can you bring in notes? Absolutely. You can bring in paper and a folder. I mean, it's going to get looked at when you come in the facility. They're going to have you put it on the counter and flip through it and make sure nothing falls out. I mean, we are a prison, so.
Well,
Well,
concerning
and I guess
training
just
too.
on that note, I just want to appreciate the work that your office does to advocate for modern technology at the facilities. Some of our team members have shared how that's just a critical gap in transitioning into residents successfully from their current place of residence at the facility to into whatever community they're living in they'll be living in upon exit. So the work that you do advocating for modern technology there is just it's a real game changer for people upon exit. So thank you for the work you do there.
I appreciate it. You ever want to have an after hours conversation? We can talk about how many times we've ran our head into the wall trying to, knock things over and get things done. And I mean, 24 years, I've told you I've been in corrections. And so I was the guy with the chalk, I was the guy they told you couldn't have the chalk holder, the little chalk holders that you can put in there so you don't get chalk over your hand because it has coil in it and it's not safe inside a prison. So back to the bare chalk and stuff. So I mean, but we're trying to get places and there is this, you know, stigma that you can't have internet in the prisons. And you know what? If you can't secure it, then there's places for both staff and individuals in custody to go if they break the rules. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't have the proper tools. So
Thank you, Dwayne. Okay. Any other questions around this? Think-
I would like to make a comment. I'm wondering, is it because I know Kiwani has had multiple workforce programs. Like at one point in time, they were doing that required computers, but they were working with different computers. Like they were doing welding at one point in time. Um, and there was a manufacturing class where these programs required the use of technology. But I know that each one of those programs were ran through a college. I was wondering, is that kind of a benefit to getting technology approved, or maybe is it an idea? Because if so, that might be something that the team might want to look at, partnering with a college or something. I don't know if that has any bearings on them being able to get that type of equipment approved or not.
It doesn't, it's not relevant. It's the same process if you're going. So manufacturing is still part of the Kiwani program. We just had a vacancy when we had a transition between Blackhawk, and Blackhawk was going to come in, and they had mentioned they were not going to keep any staff. That particular instructor left, and we're just now to the point 4 years later of having a person in the background. We've had a couple other people that put in, but then just found other jobs in the meantime because our background process also takes time, so hopefully that'll get filled. And the steps for that class were all gone through um, with Lakeland College, which is there. The welding class was actually held on campus at Blackhawk. They sent people over there. We've since removed that process. We have purchased a mobile welding lab, and the college is no longer going to teach that class, but it's going to be taught by our Illinois Correctional Industries. And we've had that for nearly a year, and that's still not up and running because we're dealing with some technical difficulties there as well. So it's not limited to people coming in new. It's for us that have been here and in the trenches. But I promise you I'll do everything, and I know Michelle said she would do the same, in my power to assist you and work with you and direct you to who we need to talk to. We'll get people from doing it on the phone. If technology is something that has to happen, I just wouldn't plan for it starting day
Yep.
one.
Thank you, Dwayne.
One more thing to that, then. I know they had the old principal of the school down there, Mr. Warnsing. He was really great at working with different groups to bring certain technology to the program. I think at some point in time, or whoever, I know you'll probably take care of who we connect to, but I know that he was a great benefit to helping get a lot of technological hurdles overcame with different programs over the years.
Is the question, is he still there? Because he is. Mr. Warnsing is still same position. Yes, a good guy. Do not tell him I said that, though. I have a reputation. This is recorded, isn't it? I need
It is.
cut that out.
Mr. Watson. I have a question.
Yes.
Yes. Is there any projected time and date when the solar program will start?
Well, so we will be working with you on that after we get all your grants obligated, and you're all going to get, which I think you've gotten, your work plan. You all should have received your work plan template, which has a place for you to update like the implementation timelines. I'll be working with each of you on that. So what we're trying to do right now is just get your grants obligated, and we're hoping to be able to get that started, get your program started right away. So we'll provide more information on that as we go along.
I don't believe that we've received that work plan yet, but Sarah, that may be because we were finalizing the budget. That might be the prerequisite to get into the work plan. Not sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
No worries. Yeah, we'll make sure you get it this week then.
Hmm.
We've had a lot going on with grants this week. Any other questions?
Now, accreditation for completion of the program, where they're going to have to pass a test to qualify for their certificate, and I believe that's done all digital, and I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but I'll talk to my manager, Chris, regarding that. But I don't see how that's going to work just on the paper only, part of that program.
Can I ask who it's through?
The NCCER.
Yeah, they do paper testing for us. They make exceptions for corrections. We already have a program.
Yeah,
They tried
that's
to
correct. I already spoke with NCCR on this, Alan.
They don't
So
want to do it. They don't want to do it, but they
for
will.
prisons is an exception. That's one exception to the paper versus internet.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. I just
Yeah,
want the
very-
group to know you guys have made me talk more than the whole time I've been involved with this thing. So I like to be in the shadows.
Yeah.
Yes, great questions.
You need to come out every once in a while, get some sunshine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, if there are no other questions, then we can go to the next slide. And so next we're going to discuss give an overview of chapter 2, and my colleague Nate Keener is going to review the rest of this presentation with you all.
Thanks, Michelle. All right, yeah, so let's move into chapter 2 of the program manual. This will be about our equity culture. So let's go to the next slide. All right. So chapter 2 of the program manual provides the following content. Articulates why equity is at the center of CEJA and the CEJA Returning Residents Clean Jobs Training Program. It describes the core equity values that serve as the program's foundation. The chapter provides discussion around centering equity, diversity, inclusion, welcoming, accessibility, and belonging in the program's culture, each of the program's elements, and each phase of the program. It also articulates how grantees can demonstrate compliance with federal and state laws that support equity. Keep in mind, this is just an overview of key points, and detailed information is available in the chapter. Please remember, you should read the program manual and comply with its guidance. And as Michelle mentioned, we do from time to time have to modify or update the program manual, and we will let you know when changes are made. Next slide, please. The workforce programs center equity, and this goes for all the CEJA programs. Equity recognizes that each person or group of people has different needs and circumstances when it comes to workforce development. It also recognizes that people may have been denied opportunities in the past. The concept of equity includes removing barriers to access and providing supports based on what each person needs. Equity also eliminates systemic barriers and levels the playing field for underserved groups. An equity focus will enable the programs to provide training and career pathways for equity eligible participants, provide eligible participants with the skills for lifelong job security. By adhering to equity values and progressing toward these goals, the CEJA workforce programs will contribute to a more equitable, clean energy industry in Illinois. Next slide, please. In defining equity, it's helpful to distinguish equity from equality. Equality suggests that each individual or group of people should be given the same resources or opportunities, but this doesn't always lead to the desired outcome. In the picture on the left, the 3 children are given the same size box to stand on, but this doesn't lead to a desired outcome. The smallest child still cannot see the game. Equity, in contrast, recognizes that each person has different circumstances. Resources and opportunities are provided based on each person's unique needs. This allows everyone to reach the desired outcome. In the picture in the center, boxes are provided to those who need them based on their height. This allows all the children to see the game. The third image, defined as justice, shows what it looks like when barriers are removed so that everyone can participate fully. CEJA focuses on removing barriers to access and empowering people to be full participants in the clean energy workforce. Next slide. Equity is embedded in the CEJA program culture and in the program's values. CEJA defines culture as a pattern of basic, shared assumptions learned by a group. It is a pattern of beliefs, values, rituals, relationships, and practices shared by CEJA program grantees and participants. The CEJA program's core values are the core ethics or standards the CEJA programs are expected to abide by. They serve as a guiding light for behavior and decision-making. Next slide, please. The core equity values for the CEJA workforce programs include diversity, accessibility, inclusion, belonging, welcoming. The intention of these equity values is to ensure that equity-eligible individuals have a seat at the table or can participate in clean energy workforce training and succeed in the clean energy workforce. Let's briefly define these values. Inclusion means that all of the individuals at the table have a voice and are invited to share their input. Being invited means that you are a guest. Belonging and welcoming means you are no longer a guest. The table belongs to you just as much as it does the other individuals. Diversity means there are people with different physical characteristics, cultures, and experiences at the table. Those differences are valued and respected. Accessibility means that you have access to the room where the table is located and can participate fully without any encumbrances. Next slide, please. All right, so if you could, in the chat, provide us an answer to this question. When thinking about delivering the Returning Residents program, what does an equity focus look like compared to an equality focus? And if you could, folks, provide an answer in the chat. Think about this as it relates to the Returning Residents program. What does an equity focus look like compared to an equality focus? Anybody have any thoughts on that? If you think back to our...
Yes, I have a thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would consider equity focuses that is being productive in society where they can be financially sound to where to keep them in a more direct mindset compared to who is that? I don't know. Equality is a style of, a lifestyle, so they don't have to revert back to the old ways again.
Okay, so maybe touching on a little bit there, touching on the unique needs of each participant. And I see Karen Youngblood in the chat mentions that equity means to put at par equality as access to opportunity as everyone else.
Right.
And then Reverend Elena Calloway says, getting to know the specific needs of our students, working to assist them to meet those needs. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and I would add to all of those and say that we've built in our support systems that everybody has equal access. All participants have equal access to support benefits. Upon being released, they will have a per participant amount where they could receive support with transportation or clothing or housing barriers or education barriers. But then the equity piece is depending on their specific needs, they can customize how to use that limited support benefit to meet their specific needs. So everyone has equal access, but there is equity in how those benefits are distributed to meet their specific needs.
Yeah, good. So now we're touching on the fact that equality isn't like a bad thing, right? Like we still want equality in a lot of spaces. And in this case, you can see we've got equality of access to the benefit, right? But then equity in determining what each person needs. So there's flexibility in how that's offered and distributed to the people. Awesome. Equality makes sure the programs are available to participants. Equity ensures the programs are accessible and supportive of their needs. Exactly. Yep. So that's a good summary as well. Another couple I always find interesting is kind of how equality assumes what people need, and equity does not make assumptions. Equality tells people what they need, and equity asks. So cool. All right. Next chat question. What are some specific barriers returning residents may face when acclimating back into society? Feel free to type those in the chat. Anybody have any thoughts on those specific barriers returning residents face when acclimating back into society?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I may, well, of course, it depends on each individual, but it has to be a holistic approach because first of all, you have to meet their basic needs, the documentation assistance. They have to get that before they're able to do anything, get a bank account, do anything. So we have to make sure that if the IDOC doesn't provide identification, which by the way, they have been doing really good with providing ID before they get out. But we want to make sure that they have their basic needs met. That the medical, the medical needs, their transportation needs, and of course all of the major things. Once they get out, we have to make sure that their housing is intact, their employment and their support system is restored.
Yeah, very good. So touching on those basic needs, right, and the kind of lack of potentially lack of networks they have to meet those, and of course opportunities related to that. I see a lot of comments in the chat too. Housing is definitely one. They all face the stigma of being justice involved. So of course, facing discrimination from employers and others. Carceral trauma and mental health are certainly other barriers. Housing again, employment, education, family reunification. Yep. Now we're getting into Maslow's hierarchy. Okay. Yep. Documentation assistance, transportation. Yep. Good ones. Yep. Yeah, and so we will further explore barriers and then supportive services to help eliminate those barriers later during this orientation process in, I believe, session 3. So thank you all for those for those responses and participating in the chat. We'll move on now to the next slide. Ensuring equity requires acknowledging that everyone learns differently and has a different learning style. A variety of assessment strategies are encouraged to account for participants' unique learning styles. It's important to note that not all instructional strategies and means of assessment have been a significant part of everyone's educational background. Some recommended assessments during the training include reflective writing prompts, dialogue or informal interviews, aptitude tests and quizzes. Some recommended evaluations at the end of the training include role-playing on-the-job scenarios and formal demonstrations with evaluation and feedback by the instructor. Next slide. We got another chat question here. Considering your target audience, what additional tools might you use when assessing or evaluating your participants? Please type some answers in the chat. So what might be some good ways to assess or evaluate participants in the returning residence program? Anybody have thoughts on that one? Additional tools we might use to assess or evaluate participants. That's okay. We can kind of put a pin in that one and think about that one a little more. Good food for thought. Mental health assessment. Oh, here we go. Now they're pouring in. There might be some kind of delay on my chat here. Brainstorming problems and solutions, how well they accomplish it. Okay. Mental health assessments, eligibility, suitability assessments. Now, is that for kind of their next step, future programs type of things, the eligibility, suitability, aptitude and interest profiles. Okay. Yep. Those are kind of part of the ongoing assessment within the program. I see Naya came off mute there. Oh, back on. Okay. Establishing a relationship with the participant. Yeah. So rapport with this population is going to be super important as well to gain their trust, to be able to fully understand their needs. All right. Well, thank you all for that participation. And again, sorry if my reaction was a little delayed on that. All of those comments came in at the same time for me. So next slide, please. All right. Additionally, equity requires acknowledging that there are support services that respond to different learning styles. So these are student support services. CEJA Returning Residents Clean Jobs Training Program grantees provide student support services to help participants successfully complete the training. Student support services may include tutoring, mentoring or coaching, makeup classes, retesting, and educational enrichment. They will also provide certification testing support. It is important to note that there are limitations and alternate delivery options for services that must be considered when working within a correctional facility. More information will be provided regarding this during orientation sessions 2 and 3. It is relevant to note that student support services are one of 3 supportive services that also include wraparound services and transition services that create a comprehensive array of offerings to reduce barriers and create an equitable environment for returning residents. Next slide, please. You've provided great examples for responding to cultural and learning needs to ensure an equity-focused environment. Chapter 2 of your program manual explores some additional key ways you can put these core equity values in action. These include, but may not be limited to, empowering participants to be resilient and self-sufficient, embracing differences by cultivating cultural competence among your program staff and participants, providing supportive services like wraparound services to reduce barriers to participation and program completion after release, building a community of collaboration by working with stakeholders in the community to ensure your program is aligned with community needs, and finally, tracking and measuring outcomes to ensure that equity goals are met. Throughout our orientation sessions, we'll further explore such strategies for putting core equity values in action. Next slide, please. All right. The core equity values and an equity-focused program culture should be integrated and embedded in each component of the participant lifecycle. Chapter 2 of your program manual provides recommendations for how to integrate these core values into each component, from outreach and recruitment all the way through transition services. Importantly, for outreach and education, obviously we're working with a pool of applicants who have been pre-screened for us by DOC. We want to promote equity here by ensuring we aren't skimming in our selection of participants. We shouldn't be taking the applicants with the fewest needs or with the least serious conviction just to make our jobs easier. This program is meant to serve people with complex barriers, so let's make sure we serve them. We want to make sure our intake processes garner trust so we can get a full picture of the barriers and needs that participants have. We want to make sure we're offering training that's relevant to the needs of participants with different styles to accommodate the different learning styles of participants. And finally, we want to make sure our transition and support services are tailored to the specific needs of the audience being served. Next slide. All right, we're not going to do a breakout, but we'll kind of do the chat format that we had before. So what we would like to do is think about the question on the screen. How might core equity values be integrated in each phase of the participant life cycle? So if we could just go one box at a time here. how might the core equity values be integrated in each phase of the participant life cycle? So starting with outreach and recruitment, what might we do to incorporate equity values in our outreach and recruitment methods? And folks can feel free to come off mute or type in the chat.
Well, I think this is where the eligibility and suitability intake assessment comes in handy. It's, both coordinating with IDOC and, learning more about the individuals, if able, from themselves as individually as well, to make sure that, people are ready, prepared, and able to complete the course successfully and set upon a successful track. And, if not ready, being able to direct and support them with some remediation efforts.
Okay.
To follow up on NIA, the eligibility suitability assessment is comprehensive. First, we have to make sure that they're eligible to work, that they're eligible, that they meet all of those particular requirements. And then, of course, the suitability, it addresses all of their needs, all of their holistic needs, whatever they might be individually, so that from there we can take that and develop a career pathway from them pre-release all the way to post-release through the employment and retention support.
Yeah, and I think too, right? Like how we ask those questions, right? How we frame those, how we're able to build rapport with the participants leading up to kind of those assessments will really help to really get good, accurate answers about where folks are. So yeah, definitely hear that. Another thing I was going to toss out there is to the extent we've got recruitment materials, are we using images that are relevant to the people we're trying to recruit? Do we have representation from the target audiences that we're trying to recruit? Do the people on the flyers or whatever, do they look like the people we're trying to train? Those kinds of things. Any other?
I really appreciate those recommendations. One thing that you mentioned is trust building early on as a part of the recruitment process. Out of curiosity, and maybe Dwayne, this is something you could speak to. I know that when we get there, we'll want to get started, pretty quickly, but what does like access and, time for trust building in the recruitment stages, what does that typically look like?
We still got Dwayne. Let's see.
He's still on. Maybe he's on the phone or something.
If I make
I am
comment,
here,
this is
and
Karen.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
I really couldn't hear that last question because I did have a call and I had it turned down a little bit. So fire it back at me.
Yes, sir. Nate was making a really good point about in how to build equity into the recruitment process. From images on flyers, language that we're using in marketing and recruitment materials. But then he was also mentioning, making sure that we're doing some trust building in the early stages at the facility and recruiting folks. And I guess I'm just kind of curious what has recruitment looked like for other programs in the past, and what kind of time and activities are spent on trust building for new programs at facilities, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit there.
Yeah. It's a good question. You gave a good shout out to Nate there. He didn't even smile through the whole thing. That was smooth. Trust building is this to set up a good program, run a good program and keep it running and have staff show up, and that's going to be your biggest trust. As far as recruiting, you show up at orientation, you put on a serious face, and explain to them. I mean, have personality. I'm not saying you have to be like suit and tie or something. You can have your personality, but explain to them what the program is. Be honest, be direct. These individuals get a lot of advice. We call it inmate Twitter or whatever. They get advice from everybody and get directed all different directions, and a lot of times it's not good. So if they can have face to face with one of your direct staff and they're at their orientations and they're, giving them facts, there's not going to be any better than that. Now, the other way, one of our big things with corrections is to be responsive. If they send you they'll call it a kite, a request in the mail, respond to it. Either, depending on the institution, respond to it in person, call them over, go to their housing units. Sure, you can send it back and forth in the mail. I did 20 years in an institution. I hated back and forth mail, back and forth mail. I would call as many people over to my office as I could and handle it face to face because one, it's going to save us all time. 15 back to back when you're not understanding the questions or just don't want, and it means something to them that you're invested, you'll lay your time and effort into their interest. And they may find out it's something they really want to do, or it might save them and you both time and find out it's not something they want to do. But I don't know, invest your time, invest your energy, be sincere. Those are the best recruitment tools I can offer. These guys are 90% of them are fantastic to work with, high skilled, hardworking. We send people home all the time and they just brag about the guys that come out of corrections with the skills and the employment and the work ethic. And so, I mean, sometimes I think you're getting the best of the best, it should not be difficult. Not saying you won't get a rough test every once in a while, but I think you'll be pleasantly pleased with what these individuals have to offer at each of these institutions.
Thank you, Dwayne. That was encouraging and insightful. Much appreciated.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and
Excuse
go ahead.
Yeah, excuse me if I may. This is Michael Cannon. One thing that was proven to be very effective in prior program when we implemented the Road Home program, the reentry program, was the peer-led justice impacted connection is one thing that they really related to pre-release all the way through to post-release. That was one of the factors that was very instrumental in a lot of people's trust and continued success throughout the programs. So
And you said those peer support groups, is that what you said?
no, I said justice impacted, peer led, those who are directly impacted, justice impacted professionals, such as Ricky and I, we were involved in the Road Home program, so we were able to assess them and navigate them throughout their career pathway all the way through. And so there was a lot of trust already built in from that relatability.
Yeah, he's talking about peer leadership.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I agree with Mike. I think having resilience, being able to bounce back from a challenge, and respect will be a main core value. Show respect to them, they'll show back respect to you. I think that's important to also show how teamwork how we work together to get through this program. That way they can point to their long-term goal and having accountability, making sure that we are responsible for our actions, like you mentioned about flying a kite, responding back, don't make promises we can't keep, and just doing, the small things, like you said, just building that trust and just having integrity. Those were some main core values that pops off the top of my head. Having integrity, because we're only going to get one chance to lose respect from the inmates.
I support that. This is Karen Youngblood. As a program I'm recently working with, and there were returning citizens. The main thing is to have authenticity. They're very savvy and can read emotional intelligence very well about your presentation of yourself. If in fact you are respecting them, and Chris, I underscore what you say, the respect is critical. Respect is given, trust is earned. one of the things is that you'll have to earn the trust by, walking and talking and doing what you say you're going to do, that they can depend upon it. One of the things that has been crystallized to me is that they're really looking for next steps of how to navigate, back to par, as we said, in having equity. How do they get back to a level to where they feel comfortable that they got what they need, that they can exercise some of the things that they want to do far as their vision, their goals and dreams, and they do have them. And they're looking for clarity on next steps and how to start processing that into their life immediately so they can stay focused.
Yes, very good, very good.
Can I just add one thing? It's Dwayne again. Something not all of us are security minded, and I am one that's been in the classroom, taught in the classroom, and have been told this from security multiple times. And whenever we start a new program, which each of yours will be a new program, and we have new instructors, the one thing that they do really watch for in the institutions is to not allow, because I told you we have very bright, talented, outgoing population that are going to be helpful, but the leader has to be the instructor, and the leader cannot give too much of that role away too early, and lose control too early. So just be aware. Some of our other vendors will not allow a teacher's assistant to be in a program for the first 6 months to a year of a new instructor, just because that new instructor has to learn how to to get by on their own and not give too much of the responsibility away. But we have a very rare opportunity to have the population that comes in, and you got guys that fall around the plumber and guys that will fall around. They do the plumbing. You got guys that fall around each of these different roles in the facility. But when we have a new program instructors, I want to make sure that they don't give away too much responsibility too quickly. And I say that because it'll get them in trouble.
So a fine balance there.
Fine balance, yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, very good. And then I see Isaac had the question, typically how does recruitment take place? We will cover that in more detail in chapter 3, but just a real quick breeze through, and Dwayne, please correct me if I get something wrong. I know we've been round and round on this. So you've got, depending on the facility, there's different ways that you can maybe post some flyers about the program. In general, there will be orientation sessions for new residents, and during those sessions, CEJA grantee will be able to give a 15 to 20-minute presentation about the CEJA program. And then interested participants from that session will then be able to come and have kind of their well, after it's determined whether they're eligible or not, then they can set up appointments to go through some of the intake paperwork and some of the assessments. And as a function of that process, there will then be a kind of a suitability interview with the program to see who's a good fit for the program. And so I think maybe I'll pause there, and I think that's kind of the really rough outline of that process. And hopefully I didn't mess anything up. Dwayne, just let me know if I did. And then yes,
you're good.
Okay, cool. And I do see the question about can they make referrals to in-house DOC support services that are already established? And I believe the answer to that is yes. All right. Anything else we can think of on this question before we jump back into the slides here? I want to thank everybody for their thoughtful responses. We're really digging in here. Appreciate that. All right, let's go to the next slide, please. Any other questions? All right, next slide. All right, let's take a 5-minute break. It's 2:23 right now. Let's come back at 2:28. We'll probably get started about 2:30. Feel free to stretch your legs and refill that water bottle. Come back in a few minutes. All right, thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Drop a like if or a thumbs up if you're back. Or a like. There you go. Some indication, some sign of life. There you go. We got some likes and some backs in the chat. All right, cool. All right, they're pouring in. George and Ricky are here. Very good. All right. Let's go ahead and jump back in. All right. Everybody needed a break for this session, I'm sure, so we can jump into the finances. Real excitement. All right. Let me find the right slide here. I got a little ahead of myself here. All right. Very good. Trying to stall a little bit till that 2:30. Got 10 more seconds. Okay. And we should have everybody back. Okay, good. All right. The next and last section we'll cover during this session is Chapter 11 in the CJEB Returning Residents Clean Jobs Training Program Manual, and that will be on finances. Next slide, please. All right. Next slide again. All right. Chapter 11 of the program manual provides the following content. It describes the expectations related to participants' files. It describes utilization of the participant file checklist to collect and maintain required documents. It discusses compliance with the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, or GATA. It discusses how to determine the appropriate use of funds, how to request an advance or budget modification, and how to establish a procurement policy. It discusses the utilization of the Periodic Financial Report, or PFR, to submit monthly expenses, and it explains the fund disbursement process. Next slide, please. All right. So record keeping is the maintenance of participant records, including all required documents such as applications, certifications, and certificates. Record keeping involves storing and organizing documents in participant files. Participant files must be collected to facilitate compliance with the general program requirements. Grantees must keep all participants' records for at least 3 years following training program completion, exit, withdrawal, or dismissal from the program. Ensure that participant files are kept in a secure location. Clearly, record keeping involves inputting accurate and timely data into the CJEB reporting system. In addition, you'll also need to keep hard copy or scanned files as documentation for various items. These include, but may not be limited to, program applications, commitment agreements, age verifications, high school diplomas, GED high-set records, interview questionnaires, career assessments, exit interview questionnaires, certifications and certificates, and registered apprenticeship program applications. Grantees are also asked to maintain physical or scanned files for a minimum of 3 years. The participant file checklist is a tool that can help you keep track of what you'll need to keep on file and can be downloaded from your partner guide. Next slide. Alrighty. All right. Oh, the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, or GATA, is designed to increase accountability and transparency in the use of grant funds. All grantees must adhere to GATA requirements. All grantees must ensure their GATA profile is current. Failure to comply with requirements outlined in the grant agreement may lead to being placed on the Illinois Stop Payment List. By this point, you've already had to comply with GATA requirements just to be able to have your application scored and to be awarded grant funds. But the GATA fund doesn't stop there. You will need to ensure you maintain your GATA profile and continue to submit reports through the GATA system. 2 such standardized reports are the Periodic Performance Report, or PPR, and the periodic financial report, or PFR. Next slide. All right. The PPR, or Periodic Performance Report, collects information about the progress you're making towards grant deliverables and the relationship between expenditures and performance. These are best accessed using Microsoft Edge or by downloading them and opening in Adobe. You should have received PDF files of these from your grant manager. If you have not yet received it, you should expect to receive it shortly. When you submit your PPR, you must include a cover page with the grant number, the grantee organization, the DUNS number, the FEIN, and the period covered by the PPR. You'll also need to conform to the naming convention, which is grant number, PPR support, and last date of the reporting period. Your grant manager can answer questions you might have about this. Your PPR will be submitted to your grant manager. Next slide. Just as a reminder, your first PPR will cover the period starting from the date of your grant establishment. And let's see, do we have Connor on? Connor, do you happen to know the first reporting period for these folks yet? Maybe Connor's not on. Actually, I do not see.
I can tell you what
Sarah.
that is. It looks like the first reporting period for Amani Works is going to be 7/30 of 2025. They are going to have their PFR and PPR due.
Okay, and so they'll, yes, okay, I got you. So they're going to need to capture activity during the month of June, I guess, right? Is that?
That is correct.
Yep. Okay, very good. Thank you. So yes, it's due July 30th, but you should plan to submit that earlier so that if any revisions need to be made, they can be made before that 30th deadline to avoid any deadlines in receiving reimbursements. And these must be submitted prior to you receiving your first cash disbursement. So again, we highly recommend you submit those earlier than the 30th. Thank you for that, Sarah. All right. Next slide, please.
I think I heard you say that the template is going to be sent soon. Do you happen to have it available now to share in the chat?
Why don't I try to make sure that that's included in the follow-up email that we send with like the slides and the recording.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Let me just make a note of that real quick. All right. Periodic financial report. Okay, the Periodic Financial Report, or PFR, is a standard report that collects details about grant budget and grant expenditures. This will be submitted quarterly and on the same schedule as your PPR. This is part of the process for submitting expenses for reimbursement. Work with your grant manager if you need to submit expenses monthly. The following documentation must accompany the PFR: a trial balance as supporting documentation for expenditures, the naming convention, which is the grant number, trial balance, last date of reporting period, and let's see, and a cover page that includes the grant number, the grantee organization, the DUNS number, the FEIN, and the period covered by the PFR. All supporting documentation is to be submitted in a single PDF. Next slide, please. All right. The reporting period for the PFR is the same as the PPR, and it's due on July 30th. And again, best to use in Edge. Instructions are in your program manual. Reach out to your grant manager with any questions. Next slide, please. Very good. Your financial management system must provide for accurate, current, and complete disclosure of financial results. The system must provide for accurate, current, and complete disclosure of financial results. The system must allow for the tracking of funds to ensure those funds have been expended appropriately. The DCEO Grantee Reporting System, or GRS, is an electronic reporting system for expenditure summary and invoice voucher submission. GRS consists of several screens accessible by grantees that allow for electronic entry of costs in each cash request. The GRS is the CJA Returning Residents Clean Jobs Training Program fiscal reporting system and should be updated monthly. Again, the PFR must be submitted quarterly, and the deadline for reporting the previous month's costs is on the 20th day of the following month. So make sure we keep that straight with the PFR deadline and the deadline for reporting costs, right? For specific questions, grantees should contact their assigned grant manager. Next slide, please. Appropriate use of funds. 2 CFR 200 is our guiding light on the appropriate use of funds, so that's federal guidance. Everything has to be in compliance with that. Your manual has a long list of allowable grant costs, such as designing training curricula, providing industry-linked training and associated costs, like instructor costs and materials, the ongoing evaluation and refinement of curricula, student support services and barrier reduction, stipends, and obviously many others. You are allowed to make a budget modification. Work with your grant manager on how to submit that and when it's appropriate to do so. We also have some standard flexibility of 10% on line items. Next slide, please. Especially for some of our smaller or newer grantees, an advance of funds may be needed to successfully launch the programs. You may request up to 20% of the overall grant award as an advance. These must be requested in writing to your grant manager before July 25th. But please note, July 25th is just one deadline. If you don't get something like this submitted by then, you can still request it, but it may take an extra couple of weeks to process due to rollover in the finance office. This is a process that affects all DCEO grants, not just CJA grants. You should also be aware that these advances will be subject to review and approval. There's a good chance you might not receive the full 20% if your submitted costs are not reasonable or truly needed as an advance. So provide as much detail as you can on what you need and why. Next slide. All right, I want to provide the link to this video here. I'm putting that in the chat right now. So this is a link to our DCEO grantee resource library, and you'll find a bunch of good videos there on various aspects of managing grants. All grants must follow procurement standards or risk return of funds. All grantees must have documented procurement procedures consistent with state and federal regulations. More information regarding procurement policy can be found in the DCEO Grantee Resources Library. The CJA team will need to review your procurement policies. In order to conditionally approve your work plan, we either need a draft of that procurement policy or a schedule for when that policy will be developed and a draft submitted for review. These policies must also conform with 2 CFR 200, so it's probably a good idea to familiarize yourself with 2 CFR 200. Procurement processes must be documented. So how do you make, and so things to consider are, how do you make micro purchases? How do you make small purchases? What rules govern sealed bids? How do you solicit proposals? When are you allowed to do a non-competitive procurement? All these things need to be spelled out and followed within your organization's procurement policy. Next slide. All right, we'll pause there for any questions on all of the finance stuff. And I will just warn that I may need to jot down your questions and follow up with you at a later date with answers. Feel free to come off mute or type it in the chat.
Having not seen the progress report for July 30th, should we be reporting like this, our attendance at these trainings today, and any planning activities I'm assuming during June?
Let's see. I'm not super familiar with the format of those the PPRs, but I mean, I think in terms of updates for us, like, go ahead.
If I could just interject, that would be more reflected in your monthly report, right? Which will also get out to you right away. So there's a monthly report narrative. Right, Nate, that PPR is really mainly like a checklist.
We're required to report after the funds has started, or is there reporting before the actual project starts?
So I do know the Sarah, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the PPR and PFR have to be submitted prior to as a condition of receiving the first reimbursement, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and that includes the advance as well too. So there will be that. I don't want to say a dummy report, but I do think traditionally in some of these early phases of these grants that you will be asked to submit a PPR and PFR that effectively doesn't show much, if any, activity, but it is a required step to start receiving reimbursements.
And back to the monthly report question, you will be reporting on things like outreach events, attendees, program applicants, things like that that are going to be specific to returning residents. And those categories will be reflected in the monthly report.
And you'll see quite a bit of overlap between the monthly report and the work plan in terms of the activities and outcomes. And yeah, so I'll see if the monthly report template is also something I can include on that follow-up email.
Thank you so much. And so should we mark our calendars for July 30th for the first monthly report, PPR, and PFR? Those three reports due on July 30th.
So your monthly reports, let me get to my calendar. I have everything as a reminder. Your monthly reports are due the 10th of each month. So you will have a monthly report due by July 10th. And your quarterly reports are, of course, due every quarter. So that would be you would have one the July 30th, because that is the end of a quarter. Your next one would not be due until October 30th.
Okay, so we have a PPR and PFR due on July 30th.
And that will cover only 1 month. And I know that seems redundant because it is only 1 month since you start kind of in the middle towards the end of a quarter. And then your PPR and PFR for July 1st through September 30th are due the following month on the 30th of the month. So I'll repeat that for you. You have a monthly report that is due the 10th of every month.
The 10th of every month for the prior month.
Correct. You have a quarterly report due the 30th of the month following that end of that quarter. So for example, September 30th of 2025, your PFR and your PPR are going to be due on October 30th. The monthly report is not the PFR and PPR. That is a different document. And like Nate said, we will try and get that included in the follow-up email with you all.
And I think the PFR PPR due dates are a part of your grant agreement too.
It is. It is
That-
part of
so
your grant
hopefully-
agreement.
Yeah,
Yep.
you might be able to create kind of a calendar for those.
And those
And then,
those grant agreements are forthcoming as well.
Actually, yours could be forthcoming today. Once I get off of this webinar here, I am trying to work through a number of grant agreements. If you do not get that from me today, you will have it tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
all righty. If there's no other questions, let's go to the next slide. Just got a few more left here. All right. So Elements of the last section we'll cover come from the Returning Residents Program Manual under Chapter 10, Data Management. But just know that we do have sessions set up to specifically discuss the CEDA reporting system with you. I believe our first one is tomorrow, I believe. Is that right? Yes, CEDA reporting system session 1 be tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Actually, I shouldn't say same channel. I think we've got do we have a Teams meeting set up for that one? So tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Teams meeting for CEDA reporting system training. All right, next slide. Go ahead.
Does everybody have that link? Might want to make sure everybody has that. Let's see.
And if not,
I can't open my Outlook for some reason, so
just posted the registration link in the chat if you're not signed up for that one. All right. So yeah, jumping in. So CEJA has mandated reporting requirements. The CEJA reporting system is a tool for tracking participants in the program. Grantees must utilize the CEJA reporting system for data collection, management, and reporting. The CEJA reporting system was developed by DCEO partner Southern Illinois University at Carbondale and is available on the Illinois WorkNet platform. Reporting requirements include outreach tracking, program entry, supportive services, training program tracking, transition services, and follow-up services. Though some organizations have their own data management system, it is important to note that grantees must use the CEJA reporting system to keep track of individual participants and their service needs. As a note, information can be securely shared with the grantee team and external partners. Next slide, please. All right. So I'm sharing the link in the chat on how to access the CEJA reporting system. You'll find instructions here. You can access it from the Illinois WorkNet Partner Guide, and I just shared the link in the chat there. So go to that link and click Sign Up in the header, enter the required information, and then submit. Then check your email for a confirmation message. Click the verification link in the email, and you'll have an active account. And as I mentioned, we'll provide additional training opportunities on the CEJA reporting system. And for questions about the CEJA reporting system, make sure to connect with David Garvey and Natasha Telger, who are our contacts for the CEJA reporting system. And if you need us to kind of make those connections, we can, especially early on. Next slide, please. All right. Oop. Okay. I need to experiencing some difficulty with my computer here. Okay. So here's where we are regarding the program launch and next steps. The first step is to take the necessary steps to establish your grant. This includes reviewing and signing the grant as soon as possible. Be reminded that you'll also, you've got quarterly report and cash request deadlines. Second step includes planning to participate in activities related to your grant implementation. So also want to make sure you attend all the orientation sessions. Step 3 is to develop your grant work plan. And a draft of this work plan is due 2 weeks from your start date, but I guess we'll just say as soon as we can get those moving, let's work on the work plans. Your grant manager and regional administrator will schedule a meeting with each grantee to help you get started with delivering the grant. Once your program has launched, you'll receive ongoing technical assistance to help you meet program requirements and expectations. And we'll provide more information about each of these steps in the coming weeks. Right. And any questions? All right. Elizabeth, could you skip to slides 74? So 2 slides. Yeah, one more. All right. Here are your your DCEO points of contact. So for SAFER, Connor is your grant manager, and for Imani Works, Sarah is your grant manager. And then your regional administrator for both teams is Michelle Cerruti. All right, one more click over. And if you would, please provide us some evaluation. We've got you can either kind of copy the link there at the bottom. Well, I guess you'll have to transcribe it, or you can use the QR code here on the screen to fill out a survey to let us know how we did in our orientation. And with that, I want to thank everybody for attending. And yeah, just let us know if you have any other questions. Michelle, you got anything else?
Forgot to unmute. No, we'll be sure and get back with you regarding all the PPRs and the work plans and any other questions that you might have asked that didn't get answered. I was made a note. So thank you all so much for joining us today.
Cool. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Out of curiosity, is it possible to make me host? I'm wondering if the Imani Works team might stay on the call for 5 minutes.
Sure, I should be able. Let me see. Yes, I think I can do.
We wouldn't be able to do that because this
That's
is an external
Yeah.
link.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Can we leave the call open for just a minute while I set up another meeting for us to jump over to?
Yeah, sure. Let me stop recording.